Hi students, in this second lecture of philosophy, now we will talk about other philosophers. So the first philosopher's name is Anaximenes. Anaximenes was a student of Anaximander. In previous lecture, I have already taught you about Anaximander. Anaximenes lived in Miletus around 585 to 528 BCE, just like Thales and Anaximander. He admired his teacher but gave his own twist on the question. What is the one thing everything comes from? What is the one thing everything comes from? Anaximenes said everything is made of air. Anaximenes said everything is made of air. Why? Because we breathe air, it keeps us alive. Air is everywhere. Even if we cannot always see it, air can change. It can become fire, water, or even solid things. How can air become other things? This is the question which arises. He believed in condensation and rarefaction. When air is spread out, it becomes fire. When air is packed tightly, it becomes wind, cloud, water, earth, stone. So air can transform into everything else. That is why he thought air was basic building block of world. Anaximenes was also a scientist. What is the most interesting thing about him? He was also a scientist. He tried to observe the world and explain it with natural causes. No myths. For example, he said stars move around Earth like a hat spinning around a head. He believed the soul was made of air and held the body together, just like air holds the universe together. Why is Anaximenes important? He, he took Anaximander's abstract idea and made it simpler and physical. He was one of the first to explain natural change using science like thinking. Now we will describe Anaximenes in one sentence. What was his thought? Anaximenes believed that air is the source of everything and that is it becomes different things by spreading out or squeezing it. Now we will learn about Pythagoras. I hope you all know about Pythagoras, mainly because he gave Pythagoras theorem. He was a math magician and said all is number. Pythagoras lived around 570 to 495 BC in a place called Samos, a Greek island, but later moved to Italy. You may know his name from Pythagoras theorem, as I already told you in math, which is Pythagoras theorem. Or you all know that perpendicular square plus base square is equal to hypotenuse square. This was the formula given by him. But he was not just a math teacher. He was a mystic, a magician, and philosopher. What did he believe? Pythagoras said everything in the universe is made of numbers. He thought numbers and patterns were the secret code behind everything: music, nature, stars, even the soul. His cool discoveries. Now we will tell about his cool discoveries. He found that music notes had exact number ratios. He saw shape like triangles have rules that numbers can explain. He believed the souls move through many lives, reincarnation, and that living right helps the soul rise higher. Pythagoras started a secret society where students lived simply, believed in the purity of soul, studied math, music, and harmony, were vegetarian, had to silent and listen for years before speaking. They believed that truth comes from inner harmony and universal order. Why is Pythagoras important? He showed that math is not just for counting, it explains reality. He mixed science, religion, and philosophy in one. He inspired thinkers for centuries, including Plato. Now we will describe Pythagoras in one sentence. Pythagoras believed that whole universe is built on numbers, harmony, and the journey of the soul. Now we will talk about another philosopher, that is Heraclitus. Heraclitus lived around 535 to 475 BC in Ephesus in ancient Greece. People called him the obscure because his writing was deep and mysterious. He did not explain things simply, he used riddles and poems. What did he believe? Her- Heraclitus said everything is changing all the time. His most famous quote is, "You cannot step into the same river twice." You cannot step into the same river twice because the water keeps flowing. The river is always different, even if it looks the same. So, change is the only thing that stays the same. He said everything is change. Why fire? Heraclitus believed fire was the basic element of universe. So his views about fire was that the fire was the basic element of universe. Why fire? It is always moving and transforming. Fire turns wood to ash, metal to liquid, coal to warm. He saw fire as a symbol of life, change, and energy. Unity of opposites. He said everything is made of opposites, day and night, life and death, hot and cold. These opposites needs each other to exist, like a bow needs tension to work. Why is Heraclitus important? He thought that world is not still, it is always flowing and shifting. He believed that conflict and opposites create harmony. He helped people think about time, identity, and change. Now we will describe Heraclitus in one sentence. Heraclitus believed the world is like a fire, always changing, full of opposites, and never standing still. Now we will talk about another philosopher, Parmenides, who said change is an illusion. Yes, really. Parmenides lived around 515 to 445 BC in Elia, a town in southern Italy. He was the total opposite of Heraclitus. While Heraclitus said everything changes, Parmenides said nothing changes. Change is impossible. Sounds strange, right? Let us understand it. What he believed? What did he believe? Parmenides thought there were two ways to think. The first way is the way of truth, using reason and logic. The second is the way of opinion, trusting your senses, what you see, hear, feel. He said most people follow opinion, but truth can only be found with pure thinking. Why he said change is impossible? He believed you cannot think about nothing, so nothing does not exist. If there is no nothing, then something cannot turn into nothing. That means things cannot come and go or appear and disappear. So he said, what is, what is not. Everything just is, no beginning, no end, no change. The universe as one thing. Parmenides believed the universe is one big, solid, unchanging being. No time, no movement, no differences, all just one thing, like perfect round ball. He said our senses are lying to us when we see things move, grow, or die. Why is Parmenides important? He forced people to think deeply into existence and logic. He inspired later philosophers like Plato, Spinoza. He introduced rational thinking, trusting logic more than feelings. Now we will describe Parmenides in one sentence. Parmenides believed that reality never changes and that all change is just an illusion of the senses. Now we will talk about Zeno, another philosopher who was his clever student and who defended Parmenides with weird brain twisting paradoxes that even puzzle us today. Zeno of Elea. Zeno lived around 490 to 430 BC in Elea, just like his teacher Parmenides. Zeno's job. His job was to defend Parmenides and prove that change and motion are illusions. How he do it? With paradoxes, strange puzzles that seem impossible but make you think hard. The famous paradox Archelaus and the tortoise. Imagine this, fast runner Archelaus gives a slow tortoise a head start. Archelaus runs super fast, but Zeno says he can never catch the tortoise. Why? Because every time Archelaus reaches where the tortoise was, The tortoise moved a little further ahead, and this happens forever, smaller and smaller distances, but never ending. So Achilles keeps chasing, but never overtakes. So, what's the point? Gino used this is to say motion is not real, it just seems real because of how we see time and space. Our senses lie to us. He wanted people to trust logic, not their eyes. Other paradoxes were the first the arrow. An arrow in flight is actually not moving because at each moment is still in one place. The stadium. Moving objects in opposite direction create weird time contradictions. He made over 40 paradoxes, all meant to stroke your mind and defend the idea that nothing really moves. Why is Zeno important? He showed that logic can challenge what seems obviously true. His paradoxes influenced math, physics, and logic for centuries. Even today, scientists and philosophers still talk about Zeno. Now we will describe Zeno in one sentence. Zeno used clever paradoxes to prove that motion and change are illusions, just like his teacher Parmenides. Now we will talk about another philosopher that his name was Empedocles. Empedocles lived around 490 to 430 BC in Sicily, an island near Italy. He was a philosopher, poet, doctor, and even claimed to be a god in human form. But most importantly, he gave us a new idea. The world is not made of one thing, but four things. What did he believe? In four things. He said everything is made from four roots. Now we call them elements: earth, water, fire, air. All things comes from mixing these four in different ways, like making soup from ingredients. What moves the elements? Empedocles added something new. Two invisible forces mix and separate things. Love brings things together. Strife pulls things apart. So the universe is cosmic dance of love and strife, always mixing and changing the elements. A bit like modern science. Yes, Empedocles thought matter was made of basic parts. Believe nothing is truly created nor destroyed. It just changes form. Sad even the human body is made from earth, air, fire and water. He also believed the soul is like a divine spark inside us. Plants and animals have a kind of soul too. He explained evolution in a rough form, how body parts come together by chance. He united ideas from early philosophers into a balanced system. He introduced the idea of forces, love and strife behind natural change. He laid the groundwork of chemistry and biology. Empedocles believed everything is made from earth, air, fire, and water, and these mix through the powers of love and strife. Now we will talk about another philosopher. His name was Anaxagoras. His idea was everything is in everything. Anaxagoras lived around 500 to 428 BC and was the first philosopher to bring philosophy to Athens, the famous city of thinkers. He did not agree with the idea that only four elements made up of everything. Instead, he said everything is made up of tiny bits of everything else. Let us explore what he meant. His big idea, seeds, are no's and stuff. Anaxagoras believed the world is made of tiny invisible particles called seeds, not actual plant seeds, but seed like building blocks. He said in every object there are tiny bits of all kinds of substances. For example, a bone has mostly bone seeds, but also tiny amounts of blood, skin, and everything else. Everything is in everything. He introduced a new power, nous, that is mind or intelligence. He said nous is a pure cosmic mind, not a god but like a universal thinker. He started the movement of all the seeds and arranged them in a world we see. This was one of the first ideas that the universe had a mind like force behind it. What did he explain? Anaxagoras used this idea to explain how the sun and moon shine and move, how plants grow, animals live, and things form, how the mind made order from chaos. He believed thinking is what makes human different, and that nous is deepest power in nature. Why is Anaxagoras important? He connected science and mind, saying the world runs with order, not just random forces. He introduced nous, a kind of a cosmic intelligence. He influenced Plato and many later thinkers who believed in the mind of universe. Now we will describe Anaxagoras in one sentence. Anaxagoras believed everything is made of tiny parts of everything else, and a great cosmic mind, that is Nous, sets everything into motion. Now we will talk about another philosopher whose name is Democritus, whose idea was that everything is atoms and empty space. Who was Democritus? Democritus lived around 460 to 370 BC in Abdera, Greece. He is often called laughing philosopher because he loved to laugh and think about the world in a joyful way. Democritus said, everything in the universe is made of tiny invisible particles called atoms moving through empty space. What are atoms? Atoms are small solid bits that cannot be broken down further. They are different shapes and sizes. Atoms move in the empty space and join together to make everything we see, like rocks, trees, animals, even you and me. What about change? Democritus explained when atoms combine in different ways, they make different things. Change happens because atoms move apart or come together. There is no magic, just atoms and empty space moving around. He believed empty space was real and necessary for atoms to move and create everything. Why laughing philosopher? Why he was called laughing philosopher? Because he believed life is best lived with joy and cheerfulness. People should avoid sadness and foolishness. Why is Democritus important? He started idea of atomic theory. He started idea of atomic theory, which is the foundation of modern chemistry and physics. He explained nature using natural elements without myths. His ideas influenced scientists like Newton and Einstein. Now we will describe Democritus in one sentence. Democritus believed everything is made of tiny atoms moving in empty space, and all change is just atoms coming together or moving apart. Now we will talk about another philosopher whose name is Socrates. I hope you all know about Socrates. Socrates lived around 470 to 399 BCE in Athens in Greece. He is one of the most famous philosophers, but here is a twist. He wrote no books. Yes, he wrote no books. We only know about him through his students, especially Plato. What did Socrates believe? Socrates believed the best way to find truth was asking questions. He said, the unexamined life is not worth living. This means you should always think deeply about your life. Question your beliefs, ideas, and values. Don't just accept what others say. Socrates used a style called Socratic method. He asked people questions. Each question made them think harder. Eventually, they saw contradictions or realized they did not know everything. It is like a mental workout to get closer to earth. Why was he put on trial? Socrates was disliked by many because he questioned powerful people. He made them look foolish. He encouraged young people to think for themselves. In 399 BC, Socrates was put on trial for corrupting the youth and not believing in the gods. He was sentenced to die by drinking poison hemlock. Why is Socrates important? He shifted philosophy from nature to human behavior and ethics. He taught the importance of critical thinking and self-awareness. He inspired Plato, who wrote many dialogues starring Socrates. Socrates believed that asking questions and examining life is the path to true wisdom. So here we have described Socrates in one sentence. Now we will talk about another philosopher whose name is Plato. Plato lived around 428 to 348 BC in Athens. He was a student of Socrates and teacher of Aristotle, two of the most famous philosophers ever. Plato wrote many books called dialogues where Socrates talked and asked questions. Plato believed there are two worlds, the world of senses, what we see, touch, and experience, the physical world, the world of forms or ideas, a perfect invisible world of ideal concepts like justice, beauty, and equality. For example, all chairs we see are different, but they all share the ideas of chairness. In the world of forms, the perfect form of chair exists only in the world of ideas. Now we will talk about allegory of the cave. One of the Plato's most famous stories is the allegory of cave. People are trapped in a cave, only seeing shadows on a wall. They think shadows are real, but they are just reflections. The philosopher is the person who escapes the cave and sees the real world. Then he returns to help others see the truth. Why is this important? Plato shows that true knowledge is not just what we see, but what our mind understands. He believed philosophers should rule society because they know the real truth. He founded academy, the first university in Western world. Now we will describe Plato in one sentence. Plato believed the world we see is a shadow of a perfect, invisible world of ideas that holds true reality. So this is all about today's lecture. Thank you very much.